For more than 2 decades, Joy Behar had built a reputation as the sharp-tongued, quick-witted co-host of The View. She was fearless, unapologetic, and depending on who you asked, either the conscience of daytime television or its most relentless provocateur. Across the table from her most mornings sat Whoopi Goldberg, the show's moderator, calm, deliberate, and skilled at steering even the most chaotic debates back to safe harbor. To the public, their chemistry seemed battle-tested and genuine. They disagreed, laughed, interrupted each other, and occasionally shared knowing glances that suggested years of shared war stories. Ratings had remained steady, even during political storms that sank other programs. But that fall, something shifted. It began subtly, Joy cutting Whoopi off mid-sentence more often than usual, Whoopi responding with a slightly sharper tone. Viewers noticed awkward pauses that editors couldn't quite smooth over. Social media threads buzzed with speculation. Was there tension? Had a political disagreement gone too far? Or was it simply the natural friction of live television? Behind the scenes, producers whispered about a closed-door meeting that had stretched nearly 3 hours, unusual even for a show accustomed to controversy. No official statement was released, but the following week, Joy's on-air demeanor changed. She was quieter, observant, calculating. The rumor mill ignited when a prominent entertainment blogger posted an anonymous tip. Major shakeup brewing at The View. Senior co-host considering exit after explosive confrontation with moderator. The post didn't name names. It didn't need to. Network executives dismissed it as tabloid bait, but internally, tension tightened like a drawn wire. The alleged explosive confrontation had occurred after a segment discussing media responsibility. The discussion, ironically, had turned toward accountability and transparency. Off camera, according to a staffer who later described the moment, Joy accused Whoopi of controlling the narrative too tightly and stifling authentic debate. Whoopi reportedly responded with chilling calm. There's a difference between authenticity and chaos. No one raised their voice. That was what unsettled the staff most. It was the quiet that felt seismic. Days later, an unexpected development occurred. A scheduled guest abruptly canceled, citing production concerns. Insiders began to wonder whether the rumored friction was affecting bookings. Then came the shock. A leaked internal memo appeared online. It suggested the network was considering restructuring panel dynamics and referenced long-term sustainability. The memo did not explicitly mention Joy, but she was the only original co-host remaining from the show's early era. Was the network preparing to ease her out? Joy, ever media-savvy, addressed none of it directly on air. Instead, she delivered a monologue about aging in the entertainment industry. "They like you sharp and spicy," she quipped, "until suddenly they want mild salsa." The audience laughed, but Whoopi didn't. That night, an industry insider dropped a more provocative claim. Joy had allegedly been offered a confidential consultancy role off-camera, effectively sidelining her from daily broadcasts while keeping her contract technically intact. If true, it was a strategic maneuver. It would avoid public backlash while reshaping the show's tone. The twist, however, had not yet surfaced. Because what no one outside a tight executive circle knew was this: Joy had already made a decision weeks earlier, and it wasn't retirement. She had been quietly documenting everything. The first clip surfaced anonymously at 2:17 a.m. It was grainy audio, clearly recorded on a phone left running inside a dressing room. The voices were unmistakable. Joy's voice, sharp, incredulous. Whoopi's, steady but firm. In the recording, Joy argued that certain topics were being selectively softened. "We used to challenge power," she said. "Now we cushion it." Whoopi replied, "We inform, we don't inflame." The exchange wasn't explosive. It wasn't scandalous. But it was raw, an unfiltered glimpse into the philosophical divide shaping the show. By morning, the clip had gone viral. The network immediately launched an internal investigation into who recorded and leaked it. Publicly, representatives called it an invasion of privacy. Privately, panic rippled through executive offices. Joy did not deny the recording's authenticity. Instead, she released a carefully worded statement. Healthy debate behind the scenes reflects the passion we bring to the table every day. But the timing was suspicious. Entertainment analysts noted that the leak occurred just days before contract renewal discussions were set to begin. Speculation intensified. Had Joy leaked it herself to strengthen her negotiating position, or was someone attempting to frame her? The shock deepened when a second recording appeared. This one captured a production meeting. An executive voice, unidentified, suggested that viewer fatigue required less combative energy from certain panelists. Another voice responded, Joy's brand is combative. The implication was clear. Suddenly, public sympathy shifted. Fans rallied online under hashtags supporting Joy's authentic voice. Even former co-hosts chimed in, praising her legacy. Whoopi, caught in the crossfire, maintained composure on air. She opened the next episode with a brief remark. Families argue, that's not news. But viewers sensed strain. Then came the twist no one anticipated. A respected investigative journalist published a bombshell. The recordings had not been leaked from Joy's phone or anyone's phone. They had been pulled from the studio's internal cloud backup system. That meant only someone with high-level technical access could have retrieved them. The narrative flipped overnight. This was no rogue staffer. This was strategic. Attention turned toward the network itself. Had someone within leadership orchestrated the leak to justify restructuring, or to pressure both hosts into compliance? Joy appeared on air the next day with an uncharacteristically solemn expression. Transparency cuts both ways, she said cryptically. Behind the scenes, she met with legal counsel. And that was when the biggest revelation emerged. Joy hadn't been documenting events out of paranoia. She had been compiling evidence. Not against Whoopi. Against the network. Months earlier, Joy's legal team had discovered a little-known clause in her original contract, one dating back nearly 15 years. It granted her partial creative consultation rights during format changes. Over time, the clause had been quietly minimized through amended agreements, but legally, it remained intact. When executives began discussing panel recalibration, Joy's team noticed language that might sidestep her contractual protections. She began documenting meetings, not to expose co-host conflict, but to establish a timeline of decisions affecting her role. The leaked recordings, it turned out, weren't part of her strategy. But they revealed something useful. Public reaction had strengthened her negotiating leverage. Then came the shock within the shock. A third file, never released publicly, had surfaced during the internal investigation. It contained an executive suggesting that phasing out legacy voices would modernize the brand. Joy was never mentioned by name. She didn't have to be. Her attorneys prepared a formal notice citing breach of contract risk and potential age discrimination implications if her role were reduced without proper consultation. The network faced a dilemma. Forcing her exit could trigger legal scrutiny and public backlash. Retaining her under unchanged terms risked continued tension. Whoopi, according to insiders, was blindsided by the legal escalation. She had viewed the dispute as creative friction, not corporate maneuvering. In a private conversation, unrecorded, unplanned, Whoopi reportedly told Joy, "This was never about pushing you out." Joy responded, "I know, that's why I'm still here." For the first time in weeks, they laughed. The real conflict, it became clear, wasn't between them. It was structural. And then came the ultimate twist. Joy declined the network's revised offer. Instead, she proposed something radical. A limited-run primetime special examining media transparency, co-hosted by both her and Whoopi, openly discussing how television narratives are shaped behind the scenes. Executives hesitated. But public goodwill and fear of further leaks left them little choice. The primetime special aired to record ratings. The stage was stripped of its usual decor. No glossy desk, no curated audience applause cues. Just 2 chairs. Joy opened candidly. You've heard rumors. Whoopi nodded. You've heard recordings. They didn't dissect every internal dispute. They didn't name executives, but they addressed the broader issue: how media organizations balance authenticity with advertiser expectations, how personalities evolve, and how power quietly shifts behind familiar faces. Joy admitted she had considered leaving. Whoopi admitted she had underestimated how corporate decisions might be perceived as personal betrayals. The audience response was electric, not because of scandal, but because of vulnerability. Then Joy delivered the final twist. I'm not going anywhere, she said, but I'm also not staying the same. She announced a new rotating segment structure, allowing each co-host equal say in topic framing, a subtle but powerful redistribution of influence. The network framed it as innovation. Insiders knew it was compromise. In the weeks that followed, the tension that once seemed combustible transformed into sharper, more deliberate debate. Ratings climbed. Critics praised the show's renewed edge. The controversy that nearly fractured the panel had instead redefined it. And the shocking truth behind the story: the supposed feud between Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg had been less about clashing egos and more about confronting the invisible architecture shaping what millions of viewers see each morning. In the end, the leak exposed more than private disagreement. It exposed how fragile power can be, even at the center of a table built for debate. And perhaps the most controversial element of all was this: the real argument wasn't between 2 women on television. It was between authenticity and control. And for now, authenticity had the last word.